Okay, New South Wales, whole new chapter of life. We stayed with my husband, well, soon to be husband's parents, for I think it was a week or maybe close to 2 weeks while we waited for the furniture truck to come down. Because the guy that picked up the furniture, he was doing it as a favour from my brother, so we all got it done cheap, so we had to wait for him to do this back load. So that was all fine. It took a bit over a week, I think. So we stayed with his parents, and they were always very welcoming. They were beautiful people. But then we rented a house out of town a little bit. I don't remember, it was quite a distance out of town, and it was actually the old Tallwood post office building. It's where they run the post office out of 100 years ago or something. It was on a big property anyway. So we moved out there, which was great. I remember the first morning when I woke up at this house where we rented, and we'd had a big frost. Everything was white. It looked like it had snowed, and I got out of bed and I looked outside and I said to my partner, I said, "Has it snowed?" He said, "No, that's just a frost." And I went, "Oh my God, that's the biggest frost I've ever seen." And I had seen a lot of pretty hard frosts at times when I'd spend out at Chinchilla. They get a lot of big frosts out there too. But this was just white. Everything, the trees were all white. Everything was white. It looked absolutely beautiful. Okay, settling life into New South Wales. My partner, he went back shearing because he had been a shearer for many years. That took its toll on his body when he first started doing that again, because it is a very hard job to do, particularly on your body. My daughter started at the little school in Millthorpe. She found it a little bit hard to settle in there in the beginning. It was a bit of a cliquey little town at that stage because there was generations of families that had lived there, and like it was a very small country town, and she was an outsider coming in, so it was a little bit hard for her to settle in. But she ended up making this friend, a young boy at the same school, and he lived in town, and he was sort of a new addition to the dynamics of the town as well. So they sort of stuck it out together, and which was really good. She had a friend and they spent a lot of time together. Her mother and I were very good friends, so that helped her settle in a little bit. I didn't go back to work for about 12 months once we moved to New South Wales. My husband didn't want me to. He wanted me to just settle in, relax, get to know the neighbourhood and the people, and spend time with his family and different friends' wives, and cooking for him because he loved his food. So I used to make all these sweets and everything for him for his lunches every day. Being a shearer, that he liked his energy levels, and that I could be there for my daughter. So to help her settle into, because it was a big adjustment for her. She left all her friends, well, we both did, left all our friends and family and everything completely behind. I ended up having being given a little pet lamb. He was just born. His mother, I don't know can't remember whether she died or prolapsed or no milk. Anyway, this little lamb. And it was a merino lamb. So they're the really good fine wool merinas, sheep. And so this farmer gave me this little lamb, and Richie, I called him, because it was Richie who gave him to me. And he used to live inside the house. He was a real character, this lamb. And inside this house, we had a huge big fireplace in the main living area, and it used to have ledges on either sides, and it was beautiful. But one day Richie was in the house. Now, he was never allowed in the back of the house, and as the fire would cool of a night time, he would lay at it. So sometimes he would have these little burn patches on it. But this one day, my husband had been down and he'd lit the other fire down in our bedroom, and he'd left the door open, and then he came back out and he lit the big fire. But Richie had been lying on the fire, on the coals of the fire, before he relit it, but he'd followed him down into the bedroom, and he wasn't supposed to be down there. And then my husband came out and lit the other fire, the big main fire, and he thought, where's that bloody lamb? So he went down there, and here's the lamb asleep on our bed. So he picked him off the bed. Richie come flying out, went to go around the corner, and he slid on the lino because he come off the carpet. And then he went up and he jumped in the fire. He come out bucketing, kicking and barring and going on. It was so funny. We'd settled into New South Wales life for a few months now, and my partner decided it was about time we decided to make wedding plans. So we were getting married on the 29th of January the next year, and the only people I invited down was my brother and an older couple that used to live down the road from us in Queensland. Didn't invite anybody else down. It was a very small affair. I think we only really had family and a couple of friends. I think there was about 20 of us. So it was a very small affair. About 2 days before my brother was to leave to come down, because it's a solid day drive to get where we are, him and I were talking, and he said that Mother would really like to come down. And I said, oh, look, I don't need the hassle. She's, always causing trouble. And he said, oh, no, she'd really like to come down. She won't do anything wrong. And I went, okay, then. He said, why don't you ring her and invite her? So I waited, and I rang her that afternoon, and which was the day before they were coming down. So I only gave her a couple of hours' notice. And I rang and spoke to her, and I said I was getting married. I said, if you want to come down, you can. I said, I do not wish to speak about my sister or any of things that have happened up there. You are to keep your peace and be nice to people. Oh, yes, I will. So anyway, they came down. And yes, she was very nice for the wedding day. On the wedding day, we got married in a garden in Orange. It was a very small affair, so the only people who came to actually see us married was my mother, my brother, my husband's mum and dad, his niece, who was my witness, and my daughter. And a couple of days before we got married, I said, I don't know who's going to give me away. I don't have anyone to give me away. And he said, you don't need anybody. He said, what you can do is you walk halfway down the aisle. He said, and I will meet you halfway. And then we will walk to get married together. He said, we started this thing together. We will finish it together. Because yes, there was a lot of negative energy around us getting married, particularly on my side, because I was moving from Queensland to New South Wales, and a lot of family and friends and things didn't think it was the right thing for me to do. But as it turned out, it was the best decision I made. Okay, out to the reception. As I said, we only had about 20 people. It was in a little tiny country hall way at the back of nowhere. But everybody had a good time. We had music. My mother had bought us a bottle of champagne for the toast, and it was horrible. I remember both my husband and I taking a sip out of this thing, and we both pulled these horrible faces. So I thought that'd be right. She's trying to poison me. Anyway, we did have a good time, and then went back home to stay the night. No motels, no nothing, no honeymoon. We just started life back, working, and general life that we normally went through.